And we are live, guys. I believe we're live. That's what YouTube says. I don't know because I don't usually run streams. But the fact that my wife is very, 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 very pregnant, she's getting very large. We get about 6-7 weeks till my daughter arrives, and I have things to do to make sure that, that is being prepared for properly. And guys, forgive me, by the way, if I stutter a little bit today because I'm quite tired as well. I've not been sleeping a lot. In any case, I might do these a little bit more often as I am essentially, not doing as much prep work, I should say, because I'm trying to focus my priorities elsewhere. So with that, guys, hey, how are we doing? This is All Minus One. My name's Bill. If you guys don't know, I'm expecting mostly my regular viewers, but hey, some of you might be new to the channel, so I appreciate if you would hit that like button, share, subscribe, the thing. And with that, I also have a live show, a normal live show. This is the first time I've done a live show on this channel, and it's one of those things that for me, I just didn't want to go through the motions of trying to set something up that's bigger and produce it and whatever, so I could take my time with it. But as I'm growing this channel slowly, I want to be able to interact with my audience more. So anyways, go over to the Ends Justify the Memes. That is my other show. So I have two channels. And this channel was yeeted for a week. Not really, but a video I made, which you can go find over on Rumble, about masks. And frankly, guys, I am, I don't know. I guess YouTube changed my mind. I mean, being in prison for a week, YouTube prison for a week, has changed my mind. I am a reformed man now, and I am all about mask wearing, like 100%. And I believe Dr. Fauci is my new Lord and Savior. I'm no longer a Christian. I'm a Faucionian or whatever, a COVIDian, right? So, and right here, we're going to see that right here. This is amazing. It's amazing, guys. Watch. Oh. Let's make sure my desktop audio is on. See, this is...
Dr. Fauci, give us vaccines. Help all the people who have been quarantined. We'll wear our masks and we'll have to stay distant. We'll wash our hands and we'll be more resistant. Fauci, yes, promise us please. We'll have a cure that can fight off this disease. Restrictions will lift with some ease. Dr. Fauci, don't forget me.
That was stunning and brave. That's all I have to say. Stunning and brave. So the music was added there to the background, but I wouldn't call him a beta male. He's like a delta male, I think. That young Soylent man, he came up with that and did that a cappella originally, and that video particularly covers the original music. So hopefully, I don't get a copyright strike or whatever it's called. Nothing big, no big deal. So guys, stream health's doing well. Analytics, stream settings, all right. Again, new for me, so you all will have to bear with me. It took me a while to get not nervous just to do the videos that I do now, which I pre-record and then, upload. And I don't edit, so I might as well do a live stream. But, for a while when I started, right before I would turn on the camera, even though I'm just talking to myself, I can delete it, do whatever. I get nerves. I get a little nervous, a little stage fright. These two when I did theater when I was younger, as well, because, you're out there in front of a bunch of people. Now you get used to it. But usually that first show or two, if you're doing a big play, is a little unnerving. And then once you're in the flow of things, it's good. So in any case, again, this might be a little rough today. I just kind of wanted to get on and talk about the things that have happened over the past several weeks. And I wanted to let anyone know who wasn't aware that, yeah, I was in YouTube prison. I got a strike on my video. I had a warning some months ago. Actually, I had a warning before that, but I got it reversed. But the last two videos that I had removed from YouTube have been about the COOF, and apparently that means I just can't talk about that directly on YouTube anymore, which means I'll just make a little video on here and say, hey, go over to Rumble and BitChute and elsewhere. And that's what we got to do from now on, guys. And I will make the video. I'll make a video and say, hey, I'm going to talk about stuff that I'm not allowed to talk about so that you will know. It'll premiere. Probably won't be long, 2 or 3 minutes, whatever it is. And it'll have the link to the other places. One way or another, I will work around the system. I don't expect to be on YouTube forever either. I have alternatives. I will start putting those in the description. So they are of similar name to this channel of All Minus One. And you can go look at those channels. I don't have anything uploaded, but you can subscribe now. So if I'm yeeted again or put in prison for a week, next time I get a strike, by the way, it's going to be 2 weeks. I think I have to go strike free for a year. And if I go strike free for a year, then this thing is removed and I get to, go along like a good little boy. But if not, if I get another one within the next year, it'll be 2 weeks. And I think the third strike in, you are out. So it's a little draconian in my opinion. There's not a lot of excuse me, guys, just looking at something here. There's not a lot of forgiveness. There's, you can't say certain things. And I don't know actually what I can or can't say on YouTube actually, because the things I was talking about, I thought were rather benign and scientific, given that I was reading scientific studies and talking about the evidence that we've had. My friends over at the Weekly Narrative, Jeremy and Delaney, were doing a stream last night, and I was in the chat, as I usually am on Tuesday nights, and I kept telling them, I'm like, you're going to go down this rabbit hole, Jeremy. Expect this to get yeeted, but I think Jeremy kind of knew that, and he's moving this week anyways, or next week, something like that. So maybe not a big deal, but for him, it was only a warning. In any case, we're watching it. The show had gone on for 2 hours, and toward the end of the show, all of a sudden, YouTube yanks it. So this is the reality. Why do I use YouTube? Well, it's a decent product, and it is what everyone goes toward. So there is just there's just so much out there. There's so much to build up elsewhere, but audiences are hard to build up elsewhere initially. So kind of the idea is if we're going to talk, we're going to have communications with other people. We're going to build coalitions, alliances, whatever it is that we're doing here in this interweb space, or just talking about ideas, right? Eventually, it's not going to be able to be done here. And they are not outright, they're just not outright upfront with how they have their terms and conditions, because they're like, this is contradictory to local scientists or health experts. And I'm like, no, not at all. Not at all. In fact, I have this right here. We have CDC just announced that you do not need to wear a mask outside. And then it says Joe Biden went outside with a mask on. Like, I don't really care. Big deal. No big deal at all. So, why my messages are pulled up, guys. You don't need to be looking at my private messages. So yeah, there is that. And then on the other hand, then you have people like Mayor Ted Wheeler, who of course everyone knows is an absolute idiot, is the key, he says, to reopening is ending the pandemic. So I am concerned about the significant increase in cases statewide. Why, again, though, are we asking or talking about cases and not deaths? And again, the deaths are an issue. I'm not like some cold-hearted person, but how many people do you know that have passed away from this? I know a lot of people that have gotten the COOF, for sure. I may have had it. My wife may have had it. We don't know because we never had any sort of testing for it. But my wife used to do a lot of traveling for work prior to the all this stuff happening, right? And she was very sick. What was it? 2019 in the fall time, winter, repeatedly. And she had no sense of taste or smell, which had never happened to her before. But, I got a cold at some point. It might have been last year where I didn't have that. And it was the first time I've ever had that in my life. And, I'd have been like 38 years old at the time. So there you go. And that is one of the major symptoms, of course. So I just don't understand this logic or this way of thinking, right? Like, you can't end this thing because it's endemic. And we're not talking about that way. But if it does end, it'll be next year. It'll be next January or something like that. That'll be when these things start to reverse course, because that's what they've been telling us. That's what they say. Lockdowns will go away when we have basically whatever goals they're trying to reach. I'm not even sure what those goals are, guys. I have no idea. I have no clue what the goals are and what they're trying to reach. What I do know is that the media is sending to you a lot of propaganda, and the censors aren't helping with the information. Like, a free society should be a society that is involved with the pursuit of truth, right? And for me, that is one of my highest values. It probably is my highest value, actually, is the truth. And so it's really important for me to get in here and speak the truth and talk about it and explore it with you all. But not really something I'm allowed to do, right? Because, like I said, I've been in YouTube prison for a week, and there was a lot of stuff I wanted to talk about. I didn't really have a lot to say about George Floyd because, well, I couldn't say anything. I did say some things on my show, but it's kind of over and past now, so I don't know if I should even care to bring it up. Like, we all know what was going on there. We all know that the man was found guilty of charges that were conflicting. And he got lesser charges when he was convicted of the higher charges. That's not usual. A lot of strange things there. And of course, the idea that this guy could get a fair trial in this environment is totally insane. Like, there's no way. We are under a system of mob rule. We live in a parallel legal system where if you have the appropriate politics or proper skin color or sexual orientation or whatever else it may be, if you have the right ideology, then, you will get away with just about anything. Now, I had a thought about this last night, about how normal citizens are afraid to live. They're afraid to have their freedoms taken away from them. Oh, hello, Holly. Good to see you. Thank you for showing up. As I was explaining at the beginning, that I don't do live streams like this on myself, so this might be a little wonky. And in any case, but again, thanks for showing up, Holly. What was I saying there? And also, I'm really tired, guys. I've been sleeping like 6 hours a night. And at least I've been sleeping solidly and not waking up every 25 minutes or every hour or whatever I normally do, which is not good. I was talking about the this kind of like parallel society that we have, and I don't mean like the NRX stuff. That's the Mencius Mulbug folks. I don't know if you guys know about all of that. The basically the neo-reactionaries is another way they have been labeled, or Curtis Yarvin labeled them. It's not a monolith either. Like any group, there are different. There are different factions, right? But in their mind, parallelism is creating our own things, right? Having separate things from what the left has. There's nothing special there about that. We've always had that, and we'll always continue to have that. But people get beat down by the laws and the rules by the people who are willing to live free. And I mean, on a philosophical level, guys, they are willing to live free. I worked in a jail for 13 years. I could tell you that inmates, they don't love to be in jail per se, but they're pretty happy. And they don't care. It's part of their life, and it's very free for them. They just go in and meet all their homies. They get free food. They get fed. Yeah, it sucks because they're away from their family and all, but it's just part of life. And the cycle continues. They don't care if they break the law or not because they're free in the way that they live, in their attitudes. They just go about their lives. They push forward, and they don't care about the laws, which is why they will break laws, right? It's not anything very complicated. Hey, Yiz, thanks for showing up on my first All-1 live stream. So, on the other hand, though, your average citizen, they're afraid to live. They won't conceal carry, even though no one knows that you're concealed carrying without a particular license, right? Now, I live in the great state of West Virginia. I'm in a 2A sanctuary county, and we have constitutional carry here. So I carry in the state most of the time. And it's not because I want to use it. I certainly don't want to have to ever use force on someone. In fact, it's against my religion. But I'm a flawed human being, and I also, I would not feel right to watch the slaughter of people. So that would be something that I would feel willing to stop and, of course, ask God for forgiveness. Maybe I don't need the forgiveness in that circumstance, but hey, in any case, it's still something you have to live with. And I know plenty of people that have killed people, and you'll have to live with it, guys, even if you were justified. I don't want to be in that situation, but I also don't want to be a victim. And people who are average citizens are willing to be a victim because they're afraid to live. They're afraid to stand up. They're afraid to be brave. They're afraid to speak out. They're afraid to live in truth. And this is insanity to me. This is why the forces of evil are winning. No joke. This is what happened with Derek Chauvin and the whole trial. They succumbed to the evil, to the mob rule. Reasonable doubt was certainly established. I can understand if these folks were given a guilty charge on the manslaughter, right? I could see how they could justify that in their own mind. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I think that is reasonable. But the other charges, no. And this all comes down to fear. And we know this because of the alternate juror. And the defund the police thing is a huge, huge, huge problem, right? Because as that happens, we're looking at the cities. What do you think is going to go on? Well, we know. Well, I'll talk about this later on tonight on the Justify the Memes. It is one of the memes that I have. But we know that the crime rates are going up. They have been a lot in the last 2 years. And we know that these places can't operate well. Remember the CHOP, the Chaz, whatever it was? People died there daily. You know, one of the things I wanted to bring up and talk about was the hypocrisy of all of this from the left, right? So here we have Miss Kimberly Klacik. And let me see if I can find it. Oh, Kimberly Klacik just ran for office in Baltimore, and she seems like a really nice, good lady. She's got some really good ideas as someone who is conservative. See, there's so much stuff here on Twitter. See if I can get down. Here it is. This is what I wanted right here. It says, on Thursday, Biden will celebrate his first 100 days. As of Tuesday, Baltimore has 96 homicides and 129 shootings since January 1st. As of January 1st, Baltimore has had 12 COVID-related deaths. We're talking about, I know the perception out there with Black Lives Matter is that thousands of black folk or Hispanics or whatever minority are being killed by the police annually. That unarmed, unjustified. And it's just simply not true. But that's the narrative. It's like 20-something. It's like 20-something this has happened to, right? And they're usually being involved in crimes and all those other things. But we're not paying attention to this. And I keep bringing it up because it's sad. She also talked about, let me make this a little bit more bigly for you. She also talked about a few days ago, a while back on her YouTube channel, about a 5-year-old who was struck in the arm by a stray bullet. This was in Baltimore. This was literally just this weekend. A 5-year-old kid taking a bath at 10 o'clock at night. His mom was giving him a bath. Stray round goes through the house while he's in the bathtub and straight through his arm. Now, fortunately, he is going to be okay. I don't know the extent of the damage of the child's arm or anything like that. But he will be okay. So, why aren't we considering these things? Why are we focused on the basically worst of the worst in the world? And trust me, I, being someone who worked in law enforcement for a long time, I know how these people are. Like, they're folks, they're people. A lot of them aren't the worst. They're just screw-ups, right? You get to know them over the years. But I also know how manipulative they are, how they live their lives. And like I said, they're free. They don't care. They don't care about breaking laws. Obviously, it's why they're criminals. They don't care about how they hurt their families. Because you got to understand that when a criminal goes to jail, that's income that's being pulled out of that household. And most of them have women. They have girlfriends and wives and children. So now the wife or the girlfriend, well, they need to get some sort of welfare because they're in a single family income. And that guy that's in jail now is restricted in his potential to get jobs, but they don't care. They don't care, and they just do the same things over and over again because they live freely, to be honest. I'm not telling you to go out there and break a bunch of laws either, folks. That's not the point of this conversation. What I'm saying is that certain people fear life. That is most folks who are growing up in this world today because they're infantilized, and we live in a society that is focused on pathos and femininity. It is gynocentric and out of balance. So they think that we have to destroy everything, lock everything down, and do extreme measures for a virus in the aggregate that has about a 98% survival rate. It's higher than that. Of course, it's 99.7%, generally speaking, if you take out the people over 65 years old. And need I remind you that life expectancy is around 70 in the Western world. Depends on where you're at, but it's about there. And we do have some excess deaths, but those things need to be looked at. And again, you can look at something Matt Christensen put out today. It was a very good video on that. There are numbers that just aren't accounted for. We all know, like, the flu season's gone, but yet people live in fear about this thing. They listen to the propaganda. They are enslaved. They are, slaves of the system. Now, in my religious beliefs, this makes perfect sense because the world belongs to Satan. And the kingdom of God is something beyond this world. Adam gave his authority and power over to Satan when he ate from the tree of knowledge. So we are enslaved to sin and death. And so I will generally say that leftism is the way of the world. Leftism is revolution. And revolutions, folks, have existed all throughout time. Essentially, people get together, they start building societies, cultures, whatever. Someone is seen as a good leader, or you get couple good leaders, counselors, whatever. Eventually, the corruption within the system starts to break down. Then you get a strong man that comes up, and you get like an emperor or a king or whatever. And this is just what happens. It's how we organize ourselves, folks. It is ancient It is very ancient as part of how we do things. But we don't have to live that way per se. But we have a tendency to not want to think and to want to listen to the strong man. And we have a tendency to want to accumulate power, which is a thing like you should be very cautious of that, how much power you have. Because you don't know the unintended consequences of the things in which you will create. So let's keep going, guys. All right. So with that, we're talking about living in fear. We have this. I'll be playing this again on the show tonight over on the Ends Justify the Memes. But hey, let's get it in as many times as we can.
That 21-year-old pimp, that 21-year-old pimp, that 21-year-old trafficker who is not yet a convicted felon, roll on into any place you want and buy a gun under this provision and walk around in whatever way you want. No training, no understanding, Wild West pimp style. That's what this bill does. And then that pimp can roll into whatever small businesses in your community with their stable of girls, and they can flaunt it. Wild West pimp style. That
Let's watch that one more time.
21-year-old pimp. That 21-year-old pimp. That 21-year-old trafficker who is not yet a convicted felon. Roll on into any place you want and buy a gun under this provision and walk around in whatever way you want. No training, no understanding, Wild West pimp style.
Wild West pimp style. Now, here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Either this woman wants power and control over the masses, or she lives in fear. Right? This is absurd. There's no evidence that constitutional carry states, which are increasingly growing, there's no evidence that there's higher crime rates. In fact, I would suggest that there are lower crime rates. In fact, I would say that these are more rural areas, Texas being a huge country, or sorry, state, but country technically, because that is what a state is. But Texas being having a lot of rural areas, a lot of countryside, like no one would even know if you concealed carry. You think somebody that lives in a county of a couple thousand people is going to pay attention or know? There's a county, a few counties away from me here in West Virginia. My wife and I have talked about moving to. It's very mountainous, which I like, and has, I think, 15,000 total people in it. Now, I grew up in a city of, not big city, but a city of 50,000-ish people in the immediate city and 150,000 people in the county. In fact, Tim Pool was talking about the other day. It was Hagerstown, Maryland. I'll say where I live from because, Timmy Tim's in the area. And in any case, because he was talking about how they are having a police shortage. And, I worked for the sheriff's department there in that county. I know a lot of criminals in the area. Again, they carry all the time. In fact, a lot of the guys that got arrested, that's why they got arrested. They were already felons and they had firearms on them. They get pulled over because they went to the strip club down here in West Virginia, got all drunked up, smoked a bunch of tweeds, and drove into Maryland. Got pulled over. Cops smell the tweeds, see that they're drunk, find the gun, boom, in jail. These folks don't care. They're criminals. They don't care about the law. And then you have this person who, wants to be everyone's mommy. Like, when did legislatures become our mommies and daddies? Laws were meant, or are supposed to be meant, to ensure that we are protected and that so things don't get out of hand. Protected like from other people. If someone violates our rights, we can go, oh, I have recourse to that. I can rebut this. I can say, hey, I'm taking you to court, or I can go get the sheriff or whatever because you violated me, you assaulted me, you hit me, you did something, right? You burned, poop on my yard or something like some kids do on my front door. I don't know. But you can obviously, I believe, justify stuff like that, those kind of laws. What's the justification for this? that criminals that are going to be criminals that already act as criminals are going to be legally allowed to be a criminal because they have yet to go into jail because they are 21. The 21-year-old pimp who's never been arrested before. By the way, if someone's a 21-year-old pimp, they've been arrested before. I can promise you that is how that works, folks. Yes, Holly, tweeds. Them tweeds. I am a fan of the movie Friday, the original. The other ones are horrible movies, but the first Friday with what is that? Ice-T or Ice Cube. That's Ice Cube. Is a great movie. In any case, these folks don't care, and that is the criminals. Again, that's why they're criminals. They literally live freely within the society. They do whatever they please. And most of you won't. You're just too afraid. You're too afraid to stand up for yourself because you're afraid of the confrontation. And I get it. I'm not a very confrontational person. Now I can be. You guys, you know what? I hate to sound like Bruce Banner, but you wouldn't like me when I'm angry. I definitely don't turn into the Hulk or anything, but I mean, I'm not a nice guy when you push me too far. And so one of the things that I learned in, my years of dealing with nonsense is I don't let things get that far in the first place. But yeah, I don't want to have confrontations with people. I don't want to be in a yelling match. I don't want to walk into a store. In fact, the birthing classes that my wife had been doing every Monday night, we're going to this couple. We're going to their house because it's the only way they can really technically teach it right now. And they were telling us, because they don't do the mask thing, that they got a Karen the other day. The lady that runs the class basically had someone yelling at her for not wearing a mask. Yelling at her, "Did you see the sign?" And she was like, "Yeah," and just walked on. So that happens rarely. But again, those people, they're not afraid to confront you. They're not afraid to try and get in your face and shame you. I'm not saying that we should go get in people's faces and shame them for wearing masks outside like idiots either. But what I am saying is that we need to be a little bit more brave. We need to be a little bit more bold. We need to say, hey, enough. Not doing it, man. Because this is what is truly happening. People are just complying as sheep. And actually, I'm kind of okay with the idea of here are the recommendations. We wish you would comply. That's actually the way I would like for all of this to have gone as far as the COOF goes. It's what Japan did. It's more or less what South Korea did, and Sweden. They had some other minor restrictions. But they didn't violate their basic tenets of their constitutions. In Japan, politics is serious business. They'll kick you out of office if you violate the Constitution. It's not like here where we just put up with it because we have a low information, gynocentric society that is focused on their emotions and feeling good and materialism and everything and anything in the end that just makes people miserable and vacant of any sort of deeper spiritual reality, right? I'm telling you guys, your life will have no meaning in materialism. And it's not going to have any meaning in fear. And maybe that's part of this, right? Maybe that's why the Karens come out, because it gives them meaning and purpose. The virtue signal, that makes me a good person. It's so much easier to virtue signal than to actually be a good person, right? It's actually deeper than that, though. Aiden Paladin has a really good video on this. In fact, I used part of her video in a video I made some years ago. And, there is literally narcissistic and psychopathic traits to people who virtue signal. It's part of the dark triad. All right, yes, I appreciate you showing up for a little bit, throwing in a like, whatever else. Like I said, this is just kind of me rambling about things because I have been yeeted for a week. So I'm back. Hopefully I'll see you over on the Ants Justify the Memes tonight. And if not, well, I'm sure I'll see you on Don's stream or your own or whatever else. So you have a good one, yes. In any case, again, lost my train of thought. This society we are in is out of balance, and it is being run by people who maybe don't think that they're evil, but what they're doing in the end is evil, right? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. But I think most of them, they're in a little cabal. I really do. And that cabal, it has plans, and the plans are for the one world government. And we already have a one world government, evidenced by this pandemic. This was the rollout, in my opinion, the test to say, hey, will people comply? Will they go with this? And we're still going through it. Now, what they're expecting is 2 years or so of these lockdowns, 2 years of ridiculousness and compliance and fear mongering, propaganda, all that stuff. And eventually everyone will get in line. But we're seeing globally protests, which is great. We see that globally. You don't hear about it on the news because that would go against the propaganda. But protests are happening all over the world about this. So some people are fighting back, but it's not about going to protest. I'm not a big fan of that stuff. Now, I was just talking to Yiz in the chat. Yiz does that, or she used to. Our friend Don the Pleb does. Jeremy from the Weekly Narrative, he, used to go on the street and talk to people, microphone style, like Elijah from Slightly Offensive, or, Fleckus Talks, those kind of folks. And that's fine. You can do that. I'm not really into that personally. I would rather start very small, very locally, in everyday things. And one of the best things is just not to lie to yourself or to people when you have conversations. And I get it. I get it can be difficult or hard because you don't want to be offensive. But again, that's you being in fear, living in fear. I can tell you right now, no criminal cares if they offend you or not. Now, again, they might not be the best people. They might not have the best morals. I'm not telling you to emulate their morals. What I'm telling you is that they live to themselves freely. And you, many of you, probably not my listeners, hopefully not my listeners, but maybe some folks that might catch this who don't watch me. A lot of you, you're not an individual. You're part of the collective. You're part of the system. You're part of the beast. You would gladly take the mark. All right, guys. I have other stuff I want to get to. Like I said, just thoughts, things that have been coming up, right? You guys probably know about this. French generals cause backlash with civil war warning. So actually, I'll leave that up for a few minutes. France has been in a crazy, crazy state of chaos for, I don't know, the last decade. They've been all over the place. One of the places that Antifa was building up in the 2000s was France before it showed its big presence here in the United States. Of course, Antifa has been around for a long time. But France has had a lot of issues. And one of the issues, of course, are Muslim immigrants. And again, having this parallel culture, this parallel society. And that creates a lot of tension between people and individuals. It's something like, I like to use the Gini coefficient a lot because it applies across the board a lot. It's something like this, right? If too many people are allowed to get away with all the things, right? If there are too many people who are in the protected class, society will get violent. So the Gini coefficient is a scale based in from 1 to 0 on the difference between the distribution of wealth. And the higher that number is, that is 1, means the smaller amount or just one individual would have all of the wealth. And 0 means it would be equally distributed across everyone. And anything over 0.4 people start to get violent. So you push toward half or 60, or sorry, yeah, half, 0.5 or 0.6. You got that last little bit, that 40%, it goes over, right? It goes over the edge, and that 40% of people that have all the wealth, essentially are seen as this elite class that need to be taken down. And that's where you get like the French Revolution, or in part the Russian Revolution, which was a whole giant mess of a series of issues, famines, revolutions, and whatever else. Regardless, this same scale can be applied in many different ways. We see this with polygamy. We know polygamous societies are essentially more violent. And so I would say when we see societies that have parallelism, we have these different cultures kind of being treated differently and having different legal standards, violence will go up. And then on top of that, they had the gas prices skyrocket because of, I believe it was Macron that started it, environmental reasons. So then you had the Yellow Vests come out and protesting. And France is a mess, guys. They riot and fight and do whatever constantly all the time. I don't know what the square footage or whatever it is of square mileage of France is. But it's a pretty big nation, but it's comparable, I would say, to some of our larger states. I don't think that like most people don't understand how small Europe is in comparison to the United States. Europeans don't understand how vast America is. France is losing its culture. One of the things the French have always been snobby about is their language, right? They are very, very, very particular about their language. They are very much into keeping their culture, and now their culture is being eroded by another invading culture that they allowed, or at least the politicians did, for reasons. Now, to my mind, from everything I've read over the years, the reasons are pretty simple because they talk about it in the UN. They want to depopulate the southern hemisphere, the rural areas, and bring everyone into cities. Cities allow them more control, and it also more or less has to do with their environmental agendas of allowing the earth to, to be free, saving Mother Earth. But yeah, so there was all of that, and then there's Antifa in there as well, which are not the Yellow Vests. And the Yellow Vests were actually people who were living in rural areas who could hardly afford gas because they were out in the countryside. And then again, you have the Muslims. This is all a big powder keg over there. And finally, in France, you have former generals saying, civil war is going to come, guys. And I would say that they're pretty much probably already in it. It's been going on for a while, right? If you look at what's been going on in France for a while, they are probably already in the civil war. Much like we are. We're in this cold civil war. Little skirmishes break out here and there. You can get some skirmishes up in Boston on occasion, out in Seattle and Portland, of course. I don't know about DC, even though I'm around the corner. Antifa isn't really active in Baltimore, as far as I know, because what do they don't need to be, because Baltimore is basically Detroit, absolutely destroyed and utterly gutted and crime riddled. But this is a trend that's happening with the Western world, is it not? Do we not see this? Like you all who are watching currently live, most likely. That's why you're watching me live. You would have left by now otherwise. You know this. But how can we not acknowledge it? How can so many people be blind to it? Do they even care about the truth? Do they care to know or know anything, outside of what is told to them by the mainstream media, by the academics, by the government? Remember, Joe Biden himself chimed in on the George Floyd case. Maxine Waters should have been a mistrial because of old Mad Max. And Nancy Pelosi thanked Floyd for dying, so that was pretty fun. She needs to retire. I mean, most of them need to retire. I would actually just like the whole federal government to be disbanded at this point because it's utterly ineffectual. But what it really is doing is it's setting up the next stage, the next phase of life, which is, the Great Reset, the wokeism, the new economic plan. And this in part is fascism. It's a fascistic style system. And many people, we could probably debate over this, but many people would say fascism is right wing, and it is not. It is left wing. It is a collectivist mentality. Now, it may be a little bit more right of Mao than Mao. It might be a little bit more right than, socialism. But it's basically tails to the heads of socialism or communism, and the coin is socialism. And you guys, I think you're going to like this. I think you're going to like this a lot. Give me a second here. Pull this up for you. I'm not playing this, by the way, to glorify anybody. I'm playing this because you need to understand the quotes about economic systems and how they work from the mouths of the people who implemented them. Or political systems, I should say.
The capitalistic economic system for the exploitation of the economically weak, with its unfair salaries, with its unseemly evaluation of a human being according to wealth and property instead of responsibility and performance. And we are all determined to destroy this system under all conditions. Benefit to the community precedes benefit to the individual. This state should retain supervision, and each property owner should consider himself appointed by the state. It is his duty not to use his property against the interests of others among his own people. This is the crucial matter. This American nation will always retain its right to control the owners of property. A policy of laissez-faire in this sphere is not only cruelty to the individual guiltless victims, but also to the nation as a whole. For there is one thing we must never forget. The majority can never replace the man. Life is like a mirror. If you frown at it, it frowns back. If you smile, it returns the greeting. Donald Trump seems to think that if you tell a big enough lie and tell it frequently enough, that it will be believed. It's not the truth that matters, but victory. The doom of a nation can be averted only by a storm of flowing passion. But only those who are passionate themselves can arouse passion in others. Thank you.
RefuseFascism.org.
One is the environment. So many terrible decisions that will hurt us all. Never mind what's good for business.
So, everyone just applauded Adolf Hitler.
Well, there you have it. Everyone just applauded. Everyone just applauded. And that's, because the economic policies, and not just that, but the general policies of the fascists were the same policies the left wants, because the fascists were leftists, guys. I mean, that's just the reality. Hey, Val, thanks for showing up. I'm just kind of rambling. I don't know. I got some things to talk about because I'm out of YouTube prison. So this would be my first live stream, guys. If you're just coming in, I don't live stream over here on All Minus One, but I might start doing it more frequently because I just, I have a baby coming real soon, and it's easy for me to ramble. I'll put it that way. I'm a talkative fella. I like to talk. So. And just something else of note here, I actually thought was funny. Speaking of the idea of fascism. Hold on, for some reason that didn't come up on my VLC. There we go. Is this wonderful message from China, because China, they love us very much, and you know, in their love for us, they want to take care of us.
美国，这个全球最富裕的国家之一，仍面临着饥饿的困扰。在这个国家，尽管食品供应过剩，却仍有4900万美国人在挨饿。许多人无力负担健康的食物来提升生活品质。帮助美国，从现在开始。
Yes. So, I don't even know what to say to this. Beautiful. But, you know, this commercial would be right. I don't know who made this. It's a great troll. The dog. China is asshole. Yes, yes. They aren't wrong about the notion, at least pushed by the left, that there are food insecurities. Now, I don't believe that one bit. I've never been in an area where you can't get the food. I've been to a lot of places. Maybe there's some inner city place that I don't know about, but I've been in dangerous neighborhoods, guys. I used to have to go down to Baltimore for work quite often, in not good parts of town. Obviously, D.C., if you go across the Anacostia River, there's a little area that's got one of the highest murder rates in the United States. They're trying to give those people statehood too, by the way. It's not going to happen, but Brianna, welcome. Welcome, Brianna. I seem to have a lot of women in my chat today. It's interesting. You guys must be here for my rugged good looks. In any case, yeah, what was I talking about? I was talking about China and food insecurities. In any case, now my co-host, you can talk to with chat when we go live this evening at 7 p.m. Eastern over on the Ends Justify the Memes. He speaks Chinese. He's studied Chinese culture in college. He's gone to China several times, and he'll tell you that there are a lot of poor people in China as well that are starving to death, and they're not getting anything. This is part of that fascism, that fascistic system, because in communism, they would just take care of you, most likely, supposedly. I don't know. In any case, yeah, there are people who are homeless that are living in the streets because they can't work. It's how these things go. You're just a cog in the wheel in these systems, and to leftists. And again, I say this because from a religious a perspective of faith, we live in the kingdom of Satan. Leftism is the natural way. Revolution is the way. And to hang on to tradition is harder. And we're in a really bad state with that, folks. Really bad. Of course, you know this. Let's see. I have all kinds of stuff to bring up, guys. I you know, like I said, it's kind of going to be a random thing. Oh, very good thing to bring up here. Glad I brought it up. Social media censorship bill passes in Florida Senate. Now, it's not expected to pass in the House. I haven't seen any coverage of this quite yet. Of course, we have a similar thing going on over in Texas. This was back from March 5th, but hasn't quite gone through yet as far as I'm aware. But what does that mean? Well, basically, YouTube can't do the things that it did this past week if you're in Florida. That is to me. And they're doing it to a lot of people. Like I said, a lot of you are friends from over in Jeremy and Delaney's stream of the Weekly Narrative, and they got pulled last night. They were almost done with the show, and they got pulled. They got pulled from YouTube, and they got pulled from stereo. They were on stereo a little bit longer, I think. And I went over to DLive and watched the rest of the show, chatted with them a little bit. But they got pulled. Now, for Jeremy, it was just a warning because it was his first time. But why? He did nothing but but cover scientific studies, and he had every single one linked in the chat. And of course, part of Jeremy's thing is he wants leftists to call in and, debate and do whatever else, and that's great. But at the end, it was the best because the most soylent of all soylents got in the chat or got in the stereo call and was like, you guys are being dangerous and you're going to cause people to die because you're spreading misinformation. It's like, dude, chill out with the propaganda. All right. If you believe that a 99.7% survival rate means that we should end it all and that everyone's going to die, then perhaps you should just go ahead and take care of things. That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to say any more than that. I don't condone violence or self-harm, folks. I'm just saying that's an irrational fear. And you're not acting like you're afraid like that at all. I could understand if the survival rate was the 0.3% or the 0.3%, whatever it is, right? I can understand then. Like, I'd be panicking too. Hell, if we had a 15% death rate, this would be enormous. We would all know folks that have passed away. Now, I've mentioned it frequently. I have a cousin that passed away. I don't know without the coup how much longer he would have lived. Seemed to be in bad health, had heart disease, died of pneumonia while having the coup. Got pneumonia because he had the coup, And I've mentioned before, people get pneumonia. I'm pretty sure I had pneumonia in boot camp during the rifle range because I was constantly coughing and throwing up fluid out of my lungs in the middle of the night. No joke. My daughter had pneumonia a few years back. And we got her taken care of. If you are healthy, most likely you will survive pneumonia. It's not that it's not serious, but we have good medical technology. In any case, back to the story, because I'm getting too far off topic here. Social media censorship bill passed in Florida Senate. Again, very good bill, and this is the kind of stuff that the right needs to do. This is the stuff that people who want a free society need to do, because big tech cannot and should not dictate all things to everyone all the time. And guys, if you don't want corporatism and you don't want this sort of merger of the state and big corporations that is fascistic, right? Then perhaps you should be supporting this. Perhaps you should be sharing these things about this. Perhaps you need to tell your friends who may not know, your lefty friends. And I actually have a lot of lefty friends. I like lefties, actually. I think that generally the innocent ones, not like the ones in the government or the AOCs or the crazy ones, right? But I think generally most of them aren't thinking. They have a good heart, or they supposedly have a good heart, and it's pathos. Or, like I said before, the virtue signal stuff. They're a little narcissistic. That's okay. We live in the age of narcissism. It's a problem in society, but I'm saying I give that pass to people because, yeah, we're human. We all have flaws. I have many flaws. But in any case, go share this with your family, your lefty friends, whatever else, see what they say. According to some folks here in this article and others, it's not going to get passed because, there's opposition to it. Because, conservatives are going, yeah, but we don't, as the government, we don't have the right to regulate this or that. And blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't like regulation either, but that's just absurd. We always regulate. I'm a very much laissez-faire guy, folks. But when a public service, which is what essentially the internet social media sites are going, hey, you can't post that here because we don't agree with your ideologies, your politics, your whatever. What they're doing is then they are controlling the narrative, and they do it to a point, such as in the case of Laura Loomer, that they can't effectively campaign. Certain people can't effectively campaign. You get yeeted, you get crushed, and the reason that they do this, of course, is to unbalance the scales. So again, we're in an unbalanced society. If we want the scales to be balanced, then we have to do something about it. Fair enough, right? It's not that hard. Holly says, "Oh, you're talking about me except the narcissistic part." Okay. Gooding, Josh. How you doing, man? I don't think you've been in the chat in a while. Well, not this, but the Ends Justify the Memes. Where you? I don't remember seeing you in a while, but you know, my life's been kind of busy here lately. So let's see. In the words of Esther, if I die, I die. Yep. Oh man, well I did a video a while back on the plague of Cyprian and what the Christians did. Totally different than what a lot of modern Christians are doing today. It actually really bothers me. Really bothers me. Tonight over on the Ends Justify the Memes, actually, we are going to have on Brother Augustine, or, you know, his real name's Michael Witkoff. He's an author, very much into Christian orthodoxy. So we'll do memes as usual, but we'll talk with him about things like the occult, because he was in the occult. He was a part of it for a while. He was a 32nd degree Mason. You can only get a 33rd degree honorarily. So, but yeah, he was into Masonry, and he's written some books on it. And, you know, pretty smart dude. Had him on a few weeks back, but he only had an hour for us. So hopefully tonight we'll be on for a few hours. See how it goes. In any case, but yeah, the plague of Cyprian, guys, go find that video of mine. I tend to link it a lot if I cover like the coup or anything, which again, anyone new here showing up, or anyone showing up who didn't watch the beginning of the stream, probably won't be talking about the coup on YouTube, because I don't need to be in YouTube prison all the time. Want to grow my channel, right? But I will make a video and it will be uploaded elsewhere. And I will make a video announcement on YouTube every time I do that. Every time. Because, again, it's about audience. Like, yes, YouTube has a great system. That's part of it. I can learn to work with the other systems. But YouTube has the greater propensity to build audience. Now, I know the algorithms are going to screw me over left and right, and they do. But sometimes I get, you know, random videos. I get random views. Hey, I made a quick shot some time ago about Ron Paul having a stroke on air, which he did. It was quite awful. And I got immediately several thousand views, which most of my videos don't do that, right? And it was interesting, though, too, because people were in the comments, you didn't show it. And I'm like, I'm not here for your blood sport, man. Like, I watched it myself, but it's still, I'm not here for that. And it was concerning because I do, you know, my wife, through the orgs and stuff that she does, I do know some of the Paul family. I don't know Ron. I've never met him. My wife has. And nor do I know Rand, the senator, the current senator. But I'm just saying. So obviously, when you know somebody's grandfather, you know them personally, and they're kind of a famous person, and their grandfather has a stroke on air, you're a little concerned, right? So in any case, yeah, but go check out that video, because it's the plague of Cyprian. Anyways, I'm going around in circles, guys, because I'm tired. What else do I got? Oh, I will cover this later tonight over on the Ends Justify the Memes. But I thought this was quite a crazy story over in the UK. Crossbow killer shot mom, describes fighting for her life. So apparently this lady in the UK was a victim of a home invasion. And basically her take on this was, I can't believe that you can just go into a store and buy a crossbow. Can't believe it. I can't believe you can just go in the store and buy a crossbow. But, of course, she's in the UK, so you can't go in the store and buy a gun. Now, you can buy hunting weapons, rifles in the UK still, I believe, but very, very highly regulated. However, if you had a gun in your house, maybe you wouldn't have had to fight for your life with a guy who had a crossbow. I mean, they're at the point in the UK right now where they are banning regular knives. And again, go watch the show tonight because I'll have a really good meme about this. And it's not even really a meme. It's just a video of reality. And it's crazy. It is absolutely insane. And yeah, I don't know, guys. You have the right to defend yourself, in my opinion. Now, some people would claim, and I kind of agree with this, that you have actually no inherent and alienable rights. And the reason for that, that belief, that claim, is that we always have to fight for our liberty. We always have to push to be free. Most of us aren't willing because we don't want to be free. We do want to be slaves. It reminds me of Aristotle. If you read on politics, he talks about this, that slaves are slaves because they're inferior. And we know they're inferior because they were conquered. If I can conquer you, you must be inferior to me. Pretty simple logic, you know. And then he goes on and says, but some people don't know that they're supposed to be slaves. And that's an interesting take because he's like, you'll always get one slave who thinks he's free. And I think that's a really interesting, aristocratic perspective. That one slave that thinks he's free. And I feel like that's me. I'm free, and many of you out there as well. I'm free because I'm going to do as I please, generally speaking. I'm not going to try to hurt anyone. I'm not going to violate your home or do anything, you know, to other folks. But I mean, I'm not going to let you dictate to me how I live. And so we need to fight for our freedoms. We need to stand up. We need to do so many things. But we don't have the will. And I hate to start sounding like Don right now. He just kind of covered this earlier today, but it's true. And of course, he says it all the time. We don't have the will. I mean, frankly, guys, I don't want civil war. I don't want battle lines drawn. I don't want skirmishes and fights. But this is what's coming. It's already here. It's just not full blown. It doesn't have the force of the U.S. military behind it. Well, actually, it sort of does. It sort of does. I'll show that to you real quick here. So, from Black Lives Matter, it says Biden is currently sending more military equipment to our neighborhoods than Trump did. You read that right. Our communities are being terrorized at a greater rate than they had been under Trump. I took this from an Instagram post, so this cat thing was repeating, if you guys are wondering what that's about. But yeah, we are having a militarized police. And this was another thing I actually wanted to cover and talk about. But again, I was, tired and whatever. Like nerves because I'm doing a live stream, Like I don't get nervous for the Just for the Memes, but I'm doing this on my own without Tank pushing the buttons for me. We have a militarized police force, guys. We've had one for a long time. This started in the 1970s with the invention of SWAT, and it escalated over time, especially with the LA riots. And then there was the LA bank robbers who wore body armor and that big, 4-hour-long shootout. And that changed everything. But that was probably a failure of the system too. Like back then, agencies didn't communicate well. Hell, right now, the FBI were just saying that Antifa and BLM hold on, guys. I got an error message, so just checking the stream health here. It says it's poor. Interesting. Let's make sure I don't have too many things open that could be messing with this. But as long as I'm up, I'm still up, I guess, even though the connection status is poor. So if anyone wants to comment in the chat, can you hear me well, or does it look all right? If not, hopefully the stream will come back up. I am plugged into an Ethernet cable, so I don't know why my connection would go bad. In any case, we've seen this militarization of the police over time. And with that, then we get more and more complaints of police brutality. And I can promise you, the police are far less brutal than they were in the 1960s and 70s, even the 80s. I mean, cops used to carry around blackjacks with them, or slappers. I don't know if you know what that is, but you know, it's a little padded thing. It's weighted, has lead in it. It's a piece of leather usually that's knitted together, and you can thump somebody pretty hard with it. Cops used to put those in their back pocket. That, you had a billy club or a nightstick and a gun. Your cuffs. That was it. We didn't have pepper spray. We didn't have tasers. All that was developed because of these cries of police brutality. Then in the last decade, police started wearing body cams. I mean, I've worn body cams before. And we keep seeing this. Well, that's not good enough. So what's the next thing? Well, defund the police. The police are going away. In Baltimore, they're losing police. In the town I grew up in, not too far away, they're losing police. They're losing police everywhere. And why? Well, because that is the goal. Because the goal of all this is demoralization. Demoralization, guys, is the goal. And you are to essentially basically not believe in the police anymore, believe there's no hope, and just give in to their will. And their will be federal police. And there's nothing constitutional about that, but they'll do it. I mean, we have the FBI. I actually think that the FBI could be justified as the Federal Bureau of Investigation, but it's not a detective service as it once used to be, an investigative service. It is now a police force. It has been for a long time. We're going to get federal police and or private security, probably a mix of both. And then you're going to have no accountability at all. Does anyone know the name of the man that murdered Ashley Babbitt? Does anyone know his name? I know his name. But you know, I made a video about this the other week. It's Michael something. I can't recall his last name. But do you guys know that he's a black man? Do you guys know that all of his charges were dropped and dismissed? Or potential charges? It's a good shooting. Good shooting. Random woman shot through a door. Good shooting. No weapon in hand. Served her country honorably. Good shooting. I'm sure you guys know about Tony Tempa. Very similar case to George Floyd. Why was there no issue there? Well, because that wasn't good propaganda. It wouldn't demoralize you. How often do you hear about FBI raids, ATF raids, right? How often do you hear about those things? Do you think there's actually accountability? Do you know what happened after Ruby Ridge? Waco. Waco happened after Ruby Ridge, folks. That's federal policing. And if you have the wrong politics, you have the wrong ideology, if you just want to go off and live in the mountains like I do and be left alone, doesn't matter. No, I think there's a good chance that they will leave me alone. But you never know. You never know. Some of you in there right now, you might be feds. Some of you guys watching. But the private security thing's interesting too, because I'll tell you right now, those guys make bank. Make big, big, big bucks. And, you know, I had a friend who was telling me that during the riots, he was given authorization to smoke looters. Someone running down the street with a TV. No, I'm not a fan of looting, but I don't think someone just needs to be off because they're doing it, right? You know, and he was like, yeah, rape. If someone was raping somebody or trying to kill them, he's like, I'd smoke them all day. But he's like, I told corporate to screw off because he's like, that's insane. So, and these guys that do private security, depends on what they do. Exec Protect, EP, is probably the better job because you just kind of get to hang out. You wear, you know, regular clothes, you're concealed carrying, and usually you're working around, you know, multimillionaires, children, and stuff like that. People that are high profile to some degree that might have a threat of kidnapping or whatever. And if, you're a multimillionaire, why not have trained armed security? But then, the other side of that is the people that are helping to take care of, like CNN. Well, they're not really out there during riots, but local news or whatever it is, they protect them. There are people that hire private security for all kinds of reasons because they go into dangerous places in the world. One of my mentors, martial arts wise, was telling me about him doing stuff in India, transporting people through there and literally witnessing someone's head getting blown off right on top of the car and them having to drive off and whatever else. I mean, these are the kind of folks that I know that I've hung out with over the years, or trained with at least, and they make $200,000 to $400,000 a year. They don't care about going to jail most of the time. They don't care. It's good money. I often tell, I don't know why the company wouldn't hire me, but I can tell the story about, well, they wanted a sergeant. I know why they wouldn't hire me, but I filled the roles of staff sergeants while I was in the Marine Corps, even though I was only an E4 when I got out, as a corporal. And the Marine Corps works like that. So whatever. But this guy, I was talking to for a while about doing this private security job back in the early 2000s. It was in Iraq, 6 months of work. It's like $120,000 to $160,000 a year for 6 months of work. Here, boom. And that would have been awesome. It would have been great. Get all that money up front. And that's how these guys build up their stuff. They do these jobs. They get these big payouts. Why do you think you have all these former Navy SEALs and stuff? Special Forces guys. They're in private security. It pays good. The military does not. For a while there, they were giving enlistment bonuses for people that were skilled and whatever else. But over the last couple of years, we've been paring it down. And so, in any case, my point is that the private security folks, they may not have the morals. And where's the accountability? Remember what happened with Blackwater back in the day? Where they shot and killed a bunch of people over in Iraq that were innocent civilians? They had to change their name and a bunch of stuff. And lo and behold, they still operate. Still operate. So, I don't know, guys. Obviously, I'm not monetized. Next time I do this, I will put in a entropy or something. So if you guys wish to donate or anything like that, you can do so. I want to read some chat real quick. Just a few things here. And I'm probably going to get out of here so I can get some food in. And get ready for the live stream over on the Ends Justify the Memes at 7 tonight. But I am back. I should make content tomorrow and Friday, hopefully. Thank you all for watching and showing up here. I mean, for me, this is a good amount of viewers. I really appreciate it, guys. I appreciate the likes. And I'll probably do this more often. I was talking about it all week with my wife. I was like, I think I'm just going to do a live stream, just cover things. I haven't done anything in a week. Nothing YouTube, internet uploading wise. So we're just going to do a live stream. And I've had a couple people ask me about it. I know, Shelly, you've asked me. So in any case, we'll go a little bit backwards. Well, Val says yes, entropy. Yes. Says yes, one of my Facebook friends from the UK was stopped and asked what was his purpose for buying a kitchen knife. Exactly. That's what I was talking about. And we're pushing there here in the US. It's going to be really hard though, really hard, because fortunately, as screwed up and as large and as corrupt as the federal government is, it's really hard for them to mess with states and counties. It's that layer of protection. Now, it doesn't mean that they won't. But in the end, it comes down to your sheriff and what they are willing to enforce. They are either a good sheriff or they're a bad sheriff. Bad sheriff will just go along with the system. A good sheriff, they will follow the Constitution. And we saw that with the COOF. We've seen that in many places with like 2A sanctuaries and whatever else. Well, you're welcome for the stream, Holly. It's weird. It's weird doing it. This is like, I've never done a stream by myself, guys. So I pre-record everything, I upload it. I don't edit, so it's really nothing different. But I don't know. It's a little weird, and it's going to take me some time to adapt to it. Let's see, Josh. I don't know. I'm at the point where war is beginning to seem preferable. It's the only way I see my children or grandchildren being allowed freedom. Well, I understand that, Josh, or Joshua. I get that, bud. I feel you 100%. For me, it's always it's a conflict between my emotions, right, and logic, and my faith, because my faith requires me to be a pacifist. But I have a temper. I'm not like flying off the handle all the time, but I'm saying like I like you do the right, you push the right buttons with me, and I will fly off the handle. And it's more for me generally a build up, right? It's a valve that needs to be released. So it's just like, oh, you're gonna screw me here. Oh, you're gonna screw me there. Oh, you're gonna screw me here. And finally, it's like, as the Vince McMahon meme where his eyes light up. It's like, all right, now you want to go? I go from 0 to 1,000 miles per hour pretty quick. But it's actually a much larger buildup before that. And so I feel you, man. But that's the thing that I think that we need to resist that temptation. In fact, this was one of the reasons why I didn't want people going to the Capitol on January 6th. And they did exactly what I thought would happen. They demonized everyone. They made this whole thing up. They pushed a bunch of propaganda that a bunch of people died because of the insurrection. And the only person that died was killed by a Fed. You know? The only person that actually died that day was killed by a Fed. So if we go to war, like they're going to demonize us either way. But if we go to all out, war, if we're not divided, if we're not split up as a nation, if we don't balkanize, then we're going to really, really, really be demonized. And even now, like I have memes, that left-wing memes that make no sense about, in fact, let me see if I can find them real quick. About right-wing extremists. Oh, right-wing extremists, they cause more violence, do whatever. Like, are you insane? Hell, I made a video about the Whitmer Five or whatever they were, the Boog Boys that went to kidnap her. They were entrapped by the FBI, nonetheless. But and I was saying, finally, right-wing violence as a joke, because the left has been doing all the violence for a long time. In fact, it's kind of their thing. It kind of started back where we got that left-right paradigm in the French Revolution. I seem to remember that some couple thousand people, like tens of thousands of people, were beheaded at the guillotine, and another, I think, 500,000 were imprisoned. And I don't know how many of those died imprisoned, because prison was not fun back in those days. So the left is always willing to go to violence. But again, that is the way of the world, and it's the world is run by Satan, man. Plain and simple. I thought it was taken down, but Sargon of Akkad, Carl Benjamin, had a video several years ago about the politics of Starship Troopers. And it popped back up, which means to me, to my mind, somehow, that was no longer a bad video, unless Sargon got rid of it himself. I don't know. I have a ripped copy myself, and I know I can find it over on BitChute. But it's a really good video about Heinlein's philosophies and classical liberalism. And I consider myself a classical liberal. And that comes from, and I know when I say that, people think, oh, you're a liberal. And it's like, not in the way you think. I believe in freedom. Freedom for all. Maximum freedom for all. And just government. And government that is bound by good men who are Christians. And perhaps the particular faith denomination doesn't matter. But I think that in Christ is important. And that's what classical liberalism was generally about. It's primarily about that. Laissez-faire economics, things that have always existed, and essentially allowing people, though, to have the maximum freedom from government. That's my position where I'm coming from. And on top of that, the Christian belief in pacifism. Christians didn't go to war, guys. they did eventually. A lot of that's because of Augustine thinking that you could compel people into the kingdom by murdering them. And he said stupid stuff like, well, if you kill somebody, but in your heart you don't hate them, it's not actually a sin. I'm glad to know that that every sociopath, psychopath out there that just doesn't have emotions, they're actually not sinning. Thanks, Augustine. So, yeah, the early church went willingly to their death, and I know that's a hard pill to swallow. For me, I defensive violence is perhaps something better aligned, but all-out war, attacking other people, not a fan of that. And for good reasons. And also, guys, the institutions are run by the left, so they're going to win. They're going to win unless there's a fracture. And I think Don and I covered this at the second time he was on the Ends Justify the Memes. I think it might have been the first time. But he kind of covered that, is that if the military splits, maybe not going to be that bad. Maybe there's a chance. But if it's the institutions versus the people, you guys don't have the training. I'm telling you right now. You don't have the training or the organization. And too many of us right now are focused on, and we need to be focused on, getting away from the cities and out of suburbia and into some form of isolation. In fact, I should have Staff Sergeant Sniper on the Ends Justify the Memes here and on the 5th, August 5th. We're not sure how long he'll be on, but I think I want to talk to him about that because he's trying to set up kind of sort of the same thing like Don's trying to do Pleb Ranch. And we need a network. We need a network so we can travel. We need our own underground railroad, if you would. I think it's important. And it's very important because the way I perceive things, you're going to start getting chipped and tracked pretty soon. And it's not because conspiracy theories, and I don't actually harp hard on this, but it seems to be what they are talking about, right? It's what they want to do. It's the urbanization agenda. It is the Great Reset. You'll own nothing and like it. And within that same article talking about that, you'll be happy owning nothing. You don't understand the people that live off in the wilderness. They live out in the middle of nowhere. Like I often mention, read Yevgeny Zamatian's We. We is a early dystopian novel, highly influential to 1984, and Aldous Huxley's A Brave New World. And he makes it very clear. It's the same age-old story. It's the city versus the countryside. It's those who would be decadent and live in the city, which makes you a sociopath, and it really does. You don't know your neighbors when you're in the city. You're worried about yours. You're worried about, everyone being out to get yours. You have to hustle. Whereas if you live out in the woods, guys, you live in the mountains, you live wherever in the fields, you live on a farm, it automatically necessitates that you must work together. Because you're not going to survive if you don't. In the city, everything's just there, and it magically appears. And then you go, why didn't that happen today? Why didn't I get my special food? Or whatever it is that you're complaining about. Well, this story is how it is. I don't understand. Well, or my apartment, it costs so much. My apartment's $5 million a month. We need socialism. Do we? Maybe you need roommates or to get out of the city. And you might say, well, Bill, but those people live, they live there because that's their home. They've always lived there. Yeah, I get it. I got a buddy who lives in the Bronx. I think it's the Bronx. I'll talk to him often. He's an old friend from the Marine Corps. And I put something on Facebook back during the coup about some of the police brutality stuff that I don't like. I mean, there was some crazy stuff. And he's like, that's every day up here. And I was like, dude, you need to get out. And he's like, I'm trying, man. I'm trying. He goes, I'm either going to PA or something like that. And I said, man, I left Maryland for West Virginia. Of course, I didn't go that far, but still, I'm just like, it's so much better. I love it. I'm going to freedom here, So anyways, sorry, long ramble. This is what I do, guys. This is what I do. I talk forever. Yes, Holly, even Jesus did tip the merchant's tables in his father's house. But if you read that carefully, it doesn't say anything about what he did to the merchants. He braided a whip. It didn't say he struck the merchants. It said he struck the cattle, the animals, to get them out. But that's because they made the temple, God's house, the marketplace. And that's actually a reflection of the idea of the mark of the beast, right? Because the temple now is you. And taking the mark, in my opinion, is not actually some sort of physical thing. It's about acting. Because it's on your forehead or on your hand, that would represent your work or your thought. And this is also, we can juxtapose that to Christ talking about sealing his saints on their foreheads. So it's metaphorical language talking about your actions and what you do. And we know it has to do with economy and the way of the world, because beasts represent nations, empires. And it says that if you don't worship the beast, the empire and the nation, that you won't be able to buy or sell. And then the other thing that comes with that is the false religion. There's all kinds of false religions. But secular humanism is the primary false religion of this world today. And we can talk of Islam is false or not, or whatever else. I think so, but don't come blow me up, Muslims, by the way. But I also totally respect your right to believe in anything, in any deity you wish. I don't think that you all have to be Christians. I think that you should be, that you should know the Logos, you should know the purpose, the truth, and the meaning of life. But, whatever. It's your choice. I'm not here to dictate to folks what to do. Let's see, what else here? I said I was going to read some chat, and I got off on a tangent. Freedom, in my view, is tied to the soul, the individual, to pursue purpose given to them. A tip of the hat to free will. Well, yeah, if there's no free will, then there's no love. This is a problem I have with Calvinism. Huge problem. And Calvin was an Augustinian. So you tend to find this in theology that people that follow Augustine are teaching something very, very different than the scriptures. And unfortunately, Augustine was highly influential to the West, highly influential, more than he should be. And it's because he was an intelligent man, but he did get a lot of things right from my understanding. I haven't read a large body of his works. I've read many things of his quotes and whatever else, and seen evidence presented. And there's definitely many people out there making the case that Augustine did not have the proper understanding of Christianity, but it is the most influential understanding here in the West. Now, in the Eastern Church, much different. Much different. But, Calvin took and expanded on Luther. Luther thought that you could allow people to sin and do whatever they wished. He said faith and faith alone. He took that from Romans, completely out of context, like literally out of context, and didn't like any other book in the Bible. Hated the book of James. That is Jesus's brother, his eldest brother, who ran the church in Jerusalem and was murdered by the Sanhedrin by being thrown off the temple and eventually beaten over the head with a club. So James, I love James's letter. If you know anything about James's letter to the Jewish diaspora, you would understand that he is expounding upon the Sermon on the Mount. But, Luther didn't understand that because he thought everyone should go out there and just sin and sin and sin so grace can abound. Exactly the opposite of Paul's words in Romans. So anyways, I don't know. But I'm telling you folks, like you all can believe what you wish about the church, about the faith, about whatever, however you grew up in it. My perspectives of these things changed significantly when I started reading the early church fathers, the ante-Nicene fathers, that is the first 3 centuries of Christianity. Obviously, the first century is what the Bible is, but there are a few writings in there. And then the 2nd and 3rd century, very influential. By the 4th century, you started to get into Neoplatonicism, and things get really wonky. And then, of course, the government got involved with the church eventually, and all of those things with, Constantine and blah, 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 blah. So what else do we got here? What else do we got? The whole reason I'm focusing on local is because it's the only way we can start building an actual coalition. Agree. Agree, Joshua. What my main kind of goal is to get people talking, to widen the community. So a lot of you guys come from Don's stream. Some of you come from the weekly narrative. Some of you come from Yiz's stream. And that's good, because what that means is you all are getting different perspectives from slightly different people, but we're building these kind of coalitions. So eventually, when some of us who are wanting to move on these things and be out in the middle of nowhere, we can say, well, hey, I have a safe place for you to come if you are willing. There might be an interview process, because I'm not going to entertain any crazies. And Holly, if you want to leave Canada, you are welcome to come to West Virginia and live with us. It's still cold enough here. It'll be familiar, but in the wintertime, that is. All right. So, and then Joshua says, state, county, and local can become liberty-minded, and it's a lot easier to reform at a smaller scale. Absolutely, I agree. The thing is, though, is that we need to push our own candidates, or you need to be that candidate who goes into office. We need to know, like, you can't put up with nonsense. And once you get in, man, it's not easy to get somebody out. I voted for the sheriff in Washington County in Maryland when I used to live there, who I worked for. I voted for him for the first time. I never voted for him again after that, because he was horrible. And I thought that the sheriff before him, when I started there, was not that great, and I missed him. You never know what you're going to get. But this guy, the local newspaper liked him, and because he had a D beside his name, that is the sheriff there, and they pushed him, and people voted for him. And then he's, I believe he's a Freemason and some other stuff. So that stuff ties in these good old boy areas. Certain organizations like AMVETS or the Legion, those places, those are important around here still. So I agree with you with the local stuff, but you need to know who you're getting. Where I live now in Berkeley County, West Virginia, sheriff doesn't enforce mask laws. I ran out and grabbed a 6-pack last night, got later in the evening or whatever, and ran up to the gas station. And as I was walking out, lady cop's walking up. She's got a mask around her chin, but I don't think she pulled it up to walk in. And she didn't say anything to me. They're not going to do anything about it. It's not really enforceable. And why would it be? Why would it be? So, and by the way, guys, they're all executive orders, which means that they're illegitimate laws. But I'm sure most of you know that. Let's see. Let's keep going. I used to manage for Starbucks, having a spoiled young lady, I guess is what Holly's trying to say here, wearing diamonds and carrying a Louis Vuitton, tell me that a pump of sugar-free vanilla was missed in her latte was the worst thing. This is what I'm saying. Emotions, pathos, and this is the world, guys. This is one thing I'm going to talk with Brother Augustine later on tonight as well, is he often, from what I've seen, talks about the emotional component to Christianity, and I think the emotional component is important. I think we've focused on that far too long, and another church movement that I have some issue with is the charismatic movement, because that's all they care about is the emotional component. They don't develop good disciples. They don't develop folks who actually understand and are learning the principles of the Bible, and understanding that the Bible is actually highly congruent. As Jordan Peterson likes to say, it is the first hyperlinked book. It's very congruent. So instead what people do is they pick out their little proof text, and they're not comparing it to the entire context of the scriptures. In any case, people were just spoiled, like I said. Wait, what? Bill's out of YouTube jail? I've been live for about an hour and 40 minutes now, Sam. I appreciate you showing up. So you can come back and watch it. It's kind of a funky stream because I don't normally stream, and I'm doing it by myself without Tank. And so little nerves in the beginning. I'm also very tired, so my brain is it's a little lagging. I have a little latency there. Um, yeah. So Shelley got to him. What else do we have here? Holly had to leave that job. Well, that's another thing, guys, is we're talking about local and other stuff, and talking about some of the things I was talking about in the beginning, and people being fearful. Like, you have to understand, I'm not sitting here preaching to you to be admired or anything. I want you to be inspired. But I did this several years ago where I was like, I don't believe in what I'm doing in my job ethically, and I have to be set up. So I set myself up, and I was like, I'm going to go back to school, and I'm going to go work in physical therapy. And immediately, as soon as I get done school, I'm going to be making about the same amount of money again. And then I had some hiccups. I didn't calculate certain things, like I was going to be really lonely at the house all the time and studying all the time, so I needed to go out. So that was a little bit of an extra cost, because what do you do when you're, 36-year-old man, or however old I was at the time, and want a social life? We go to the pub, right? I mean, I have friends, but I like my beer. So a lot of my friends, actually, the pub I go to are from high school. Old friends that I don't see unless I go there. But in any case, you end up spending more money, or I ended up spending more money. That did a lot of super chatting. Probably shouldn't have done. Had sent Matt Christian said a lot of money over the years, but in any case, so I went through my savings a little bit quicker than I expected, and then I went to go to get a job. Well, job wasn't paying enough. I wasn't getting enough hours. And then I injured myself, and all this was just terrible. But the thing was, I set out, and I was like, no matter what, I'm not going back. I'm not going back to what I did. I'm changing my life. And what I kind of reneged on that, because I didn't go back to working for the sheriff's department. I went and worked security. I did 2 other security jobs. In retrospect, I kind of regret it. But at the same time, it was a confirmation that this is not where I'm supposed to be at. And so I'm doing this, not expecting to get wealthy or anything like that from YouTube, but I'm doing this as a part of maybe having some income. I'm doing things to be independent, right? Like, I'm going to start training here soon. Like, teaching people again, like I used to do. I'm a kettlebell instructor from way back 2005. I'm a martial arts instructor. I'm a urban combat instructor for the Marine Corps. I'm rusty, but you get your skills back and you do the training, and I'm trying to do more training, although it costs money. But, yeah, like, go pursue what you want. Stop working in dead-end jobs that you hate, that you're miserable with. Live your life. Stop living in fear. Be free. Think like a free person. And part of this, of course, is, again, my religious beliefs in the Sermon on the Mount, where Christ said, do not worry for tomorrow. Today has enough worries of itself. Look at the birds of the air. You don't see them reap and sow, do you? You don't see them toil. Yet your Father provides for them. How much more are you worth? You're made in the image of Christ. And if you guys don't understand that concept, it's deeper than you think. God created us. I'll explain it very quickly, but God created us as a triune being, as He is. We are a reflection of what He is. There is the Father, that is the soul. There is the body, that is Christ. And then there is the Spirit, the attitude or the motivation, the Holy Spirit. And it is exactly in that order. In Christianity, at least traditionally, from the first few centuries, the body could not live without the soul. It's an old Jewish tradition. That's why there is a resurrection. Christ is embodied today. He's not some ethereal being, some sort of mist or whatever. He is in a physical body. And when the resurrection happens, those who have passed away will be re-embodied. As the scriptures say, those that sleep with their fathers now. This is a different conception of the modern Gnostic conception that you die and go to heaven, by the way. I don't believe that. There's an intermediary place. This is well known in the early church. This was what was taught. It is in the Bible slightly mentioned. It is mentioned quite often in the Old Testament. It's called Sheol. It's what we call Hades, the Greek word, the underworld. And Christ talks about it, Abraham's bosom, the paradise, the place, the garden. Paradise means garden, folks, essentially. That the good people lived. And Christ descended down into Hades to redeem those people because they had to understand his message and understand that they could be unified with God, their Father. So a little theology for you there. I don't know. We got anything else, guys? I'm glad, I'm captivating your attention. I don't know why. But, I'm going to cut out of here soon. I can go back up here. Got any questions earlier on in the chat? Let's see. Val asked if she was late, and I was like, nope. Yeah, but yeah, we already covered that though. Shelly said, good to know because I was watching them on Monday. I don't know what that's a reference to, but I've said so much. All right. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to leave it there. I appreciate y'all sticking with me, watching my ramblings, my madness as it unfolds. And it's nice to know that I have some audience, given that I was in YouTube prison for a week. And I am a changed man. I absolutely believe in all the community guidelines now. Even though I don't think I violated any of them. Oh, the weekly narrative. They stream on Tuesdays and Saturday, I believe, live at 10 p.m. Eastern. I guess that would be 7 p.m. Pacific right now. They only bother you when you see your earbuds. Nice. Yeah, but Jeremy and Delaney, and Jeremy did get a warning last night. He did get taken down for talking about the COOF, talking about scientific studies. And right when the show's getting good, because he had Soylent bundle of sticks in his stereo. And Commander Osis apparently found his Twitter, and the man looked very much like a diddler, a kid diddler. But anyways, again, thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate it. I don't know. I might do a live stream tomorrow. We'll see. I'm always going to be changing things up, guys, because I get bored. This is what happens when you're an artistic person. You can't focus on anything for too long. You're like, oh, okay. I am 75% through this book. I only have like 2 chapters left, and then what's this over here? Shiny. Yeah, it's how I am. So I will change things up. I will get back to doing the story times because I know some of you like that. I really want to finish reading Sephiroth Rose's stuff. I don't know if I'm going to keep doing the Great Reset stuff just because it's out there. I want to try and finish the first chapter, but I don't know. I didn't set out to make that a forever long series, and it's taking forever long. Then again, Don is over on his stream reading the coin manual for counterinsurgency. So, how it goes. Take forever. Yes, please. What, Val? There's a delay, so I said something 40 seconds ago, right? Yes, please. What? Let's see here. I'll just wait for that question to come in. In any case, yeah. Guys, I will get back to all of those things. I will probably start doing quick shot segments again, but I don't know about this week because it's been an odd week. And you know, I will just expect my channel to change from time to time because it's what I do. All right, guys, that's about it. Val, if you don't get your question in the next 10 seconds, great reset reading, I assume. Okay. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, I'll get back to that stuff. I will. But like I said, I was in YouTube jail and I had stuff to do around the house. I had like doors to fix. I still have stuff to do around the house that, because I wasn't feeling well for a few days because I not been sleeping well. That's what happens. Unfortunately, I have this condition where I don't like to sleep. I mean, I like to sleep, but my body doesn't want to do the thing. So it is what it is. But hey, guys, thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. All that good stuff. I appreciate you sticking around. Makes me feel good that, you know, you guys miss me and that you're willing to listen to me ramble for nearly 2 hours. So, and me alone. Guys, love you all. Appreciate it. I'll work on getting an entropy set up and whatever else. So if you guys want to do the question widget in there, or if you want to do a donation. Obviously, I have a subscribe star. And if you guys don't want to donate to this directly, another reason why I keep separate channels is because this is my work. And anything that I make over on the Ins Justify the Memes, I've split with Tank 50-50. Not that we've cashed anything out yet, but and right now you guys are just donations we made are just paying for basic operating costs to use like StreamYards without or with special perks, StreamYards Plus, whatever it is, you know, that kind of stuff. Or if I throw out, sometimes I'll throw a super chat out to somebody because they have a good guest on, and I'm trying to nab the guest, or because I like their show and I want them to come on. That's how I get just about everybody on, at least if they have their own channels. So there's that. In any case, guys, all right, I keep doing this. I'm going to stop. I promise. Love you all. I wish you all well. God bless. And I'll see you in a couple hours over on the Ends Justify the Memes. Take care, guys.